Hey everybody, this is Wisdom Call from the National Office. I hope you are doing well. We're going to give a little bit time for folks to hop on the call, but thank you for being here on time. We'll start in about 5 minutes. All right, take care.
Hello?
Hey, this is Wisdom Call. We're just waiting for folks to hop on the webinar real quick, but thank you for being on time. I appreciate it.
Okay. This is Amber from Virginia.
Hey, Amber.
Hey.
Hey everybody, if you just joined us right now, we're waiting a couple more minutes for folks to hop on the call. Just about 2 minutes and we'll get started.
Hello.
All right, I can hear you, Derek. Alrighty, y'all, we are going to get started. More people may join the call as well. but I want to respect your time. So thank you so much for being here on time for this wonderful Youth and College webinar called The Pivot, Going from Voter Registration to GOTV. My name is Wisdom Cole. I'm the National Organizing Manager. I'm going to be co-hosting this webinar with my friend and colleague, Derek Lewis, and allow him to introduce himself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Derek Lewis. I serve as your National Student Organizer for the Youth and College Division. This webinar, I believe, is very important, and also it also has a lot of great information when we're talking about moving from voter registration to actually mobilizing people to the polls.
Perfect. So what we're going to do tonight is we're going to go over the agenda shortly right now. We're going to have a short greeting from our National Director, Tiffany Dina Lofton. We're going to talk about what does it mean to create our vote universe and how we need your help in doing that. We're going to talk a little bit about what's been happening with voter registration so far. Then we're going to do our pivot to talk about some GOTV tactics and touches. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about leading to the polls. And at the end, we will have an opportunity for question and answer. If you have a question, definitely feel free to raise your hand. Feel free to let us know. We'll stop throughout the presentation to see if people need any clarification. So first off, we have greetings from our National Director, Tiffany Dina Lofton.
Oh, I thought you were going to go over the whole agenda. Good evening, everyone. Hi. I would say it's good to hear your voice, but I didn't hear it. But I know you're on the phone because I can see you. Thank you so much for joining this call. I want to first, as always, shout out two of the phenomenal of the four staff that we have at the national office. Both Wisdom and Derek have been doing exceptional work since school has started, but also leading right after convention to do the voter registration and GOTV efforts in 2019. This is a special call. This call is not for everyone. We didn't publicize it on social media or send out a mass email. We specifically sent the invite for this particular call to our priority states of 2019, both that have gubernatorial races and state attorney and city council races that really matter to a lot of the agenda items that the NAACP stands for, and all of our game changers that we all deeply care about and work on all throughout the year. You all are not just the folks who do the work, but you're also the leaders who organize your units and chapters across the country. And so it's really, really important that what we learned last year, it's really, really important that we continue to support and convene and check in and debrief what's been happening so that we can make adjustments and pivot to get to our accomplishments for the rest of the year. Last year, we didn't do that. Last year, we just work. This year, we said it's really important that we pause, reflect, debrief, assess where we have been and what we're doing, see if it works, and then continue moving forward. And I think that's necessary, especially in an association like this, where you all not only multitask because you're students and volunteers, but more importantly, because things in the world, they're changing overnight, literally. The priorities of the country are changing, the work of the association is changing, the structure of the association is changing, the resources that we have to do this work change. And so I want to, again, thank Derek and Wisdom for their leadership in convening this call to make sure that you all are supported. It's a lot for staff to work all day and then host conference calls at nighttime, but I really appreciate Derek and Wisdom stepping up to do this and making sure that you all are supported. So take advantage of the information that they're about to give you. Please ask as many questions as possible. But our main essential point for tonight that I want to just highlight that Wisdom and Derek are going to go into is, in the work that we do for voter registration, the most important piece is databasing. Everybody thinks that when you do voter registration, that's the end of the work, and that's false. The end of the work is after Election Day, where we get to celebrate, debrief, and then plan how we're going to do it for 2020, which is an example, or excuse me, which this year is the sample for 2020's work. And so we're testing and taking risk to make sure that next year will be as successful as possible. This databasing piece, we have not done well. We didn't do it well last year as an association and as a membership, and especially as the Youth and College Division. And the reason why databasing is so important, our Civic Engagement Vice President, if he was here right now, Jamal Watkins, he would say that data is queen. And that means that if we didn't database, it didn't happen. When folks say we registered 347 people, if you can't prove it, if you don't have the names and the contact information for those folks, then it doesn't matter. When we do voter registration, we do it so that we're able to build the association both in contacts, potentially in memberships, and then most importantly, because we pivot from voter registration to GOTV, it's essential that we stay in contact with the people that we registered because they trust us with their information to keep them abreast of what's happening and what they need to be prepared to go into the polls. When we database, it gives them a tool to do that successfully. So I want to make sure that Derek and Wisdom, if you have any questions or need anything from me, let me know. But you guys are awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining this call. I hope your school year is going really well, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the field for the rest of the school year. Thanks, Wisdom. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Appreciate that a lot, and appreciate us grounding us, because that's what we're actually going to be talking a lot about tonight is databasing. What does it mean to database? How do we actually track our numbers? How do we ensure that we are using the best methods and possibilities to ensure that we database as many people as possible? So thank you so much for that. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Derek. Derek, there?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, all right. So I'm gonna say it again. So thank you, Tiffany, and thank you, Wisdom, for all that you do. So starting off with the basics, we need your help. What this means is a lot of different aspects. When we're saying that we need your help, we need your help when it comes to voter registration. We need your help when it comes to mobilizing people to the polls. But most importantly, we need your help when it comes to databasing the work. I know that you're going to be hearing databasing a lot throughout this PowerPoint. But the reason being is because if you don't database it, if you don't record it, it never did happen. As Tiffany said, you can say that you registered 500 people, 400 people, whatever that number may be, but you actually have to prove. If somebody asks for the numbers in the context, if you don't have that, it never happened. So what we want to do is create a voting universe. All right, and this universe we're talking about creating this universe. It consists of just some basic information. So when you are registering people to vote, what you want to get is their name, the address, the email, the phone number, and if they are a member of the NAACP or not. All of this information, once you get this information, this will be inputted into our VAN system, which is our voter activation network. This system is our database for this system is our database for registered voters. And with these contacts, what we will do is once we have them registered into the system, we will then be able to contact them to mobilize them to go vote. So what we want to do is that within this vote universe, we want to grow our database by 10,000 contacts. 10,000 contacts. Everybody say with me, 10,000 contacts. I know I can't hear you, but say 10,000 contacts. So with this, how you can help us is with this link that you see right here. It's bit.ly/NAACPYC10K. bit.ly/NAACPYC10K. Now this link asks for all of that information that I just said: your name, your email, address, phone number, and if you're a member of the NAACP or not. Now, also to that, we know that voter registration is also coming to an end in a lot of different states. And now you're looking towards, okay, get out the vote, get out the vote, get out the vote. Now, if you didn't database any of your voter registration information previously, there are still ways to where you can help us reach our goal of 10K. So essentially, if we were to break this down by the week, and giving us to the end of November, we would essentially want to database or collect 1,250 contacts a week. Now we know that each state may be different based off of capacity and who we have on the ground, and so that number may look different. But if we do this together, working within our 5 priority states, and we gain 1,250 contacts each week, we will reach our goal of 10,000. Now, this can be done through voter registration. This is also going to be done through different events through the NAACP. So if you're hosting an event, right? If you're also charting or reactivating, doing different events to get different people's contact information to input this into the VAN system. Now with this, once you share this link and you have whoever you're in contact with, they fill out this link, we're going to make sure that we share that information with you. Once we share that information back with you, you'll be able to contact you'll be able to contact those people to then go move them to the polls. And on here we say we want to touch them at least 3 times so that we can ensure that that person is going to go vote.
All right, thank you so much, Derek, for that. And so we've already begun to do a lot of this voter registration work, and we're seeing people do amazing stuff on Instagram. We're seeing folks do stuff in person, right? I know Derek just touched down in Atlanta, but he was just in Louisiana supporting folks on the ground doing voter registration, doing GOTV specifically because different states have different schedules. So like I said, all across the country, people have been doing voter registration in the 5 priority states as well as outside the 5 priority states. People have been doing voter registration at high schools. People have been doing community voter registration programs. People have been doing back to school voter registration programs. People have been doing voter registration drives just all across the country. And we're so proud of everything that you've been doing. The one thing is pictures of voter registration day from your campus. If you have the numbers of people that you have registered to vote, we want you to email that to us at youthandcollege@naacpnet.org. We want to make sure that we can report the work that you're doing, the work that's happening in the field. So please definitely share that information with us because we definitely want to make the NAACP as well as the world know what we're doing on the ground. So real quick, can you go over the information for what's going on in Louisiana right now? You see that, Derek? All right, it's all good. So real quick, in terms of Louisiana is actually entering the general election pretty soon, but they are exiting the primary election. And so as you can see from our dates and our deadlines, in-person started September 12th. The online was September 21st. Early voting was between September 28th through October 5th, excuse me. And so they're actually getting ready for the primary election day, which is October 12th. And so I know on the ground at Southern University, they've been mobilizing people doing GOTV work. And so they will be continuing to do that GOTV work up until October 12th. And then they will move it into the general election. There is no in-person, but there is online that starts October 26th. And then there's early voting between November 2nd and November 9th. And then the election day is on November 16th. In Virginia, for our folks in Virginia, the in-person absentee is between September 23rd through November 2nd. The voter registration deadline is coming up in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, right? Which is October 15th, right? So we still have time to continue registering voters. The deadline to request an absentee ballot by mail is October 29th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the general election day starts on November 5th. In Mississippi, the voter registration deadline is October 7th at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. The in-person, there's no start date, but it goes all the way up to November 2nd for absentee votes. The deadline to return completed absentee ballots must be received by November 4th at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then there is no early voting available, but the general election is on November 5th. Excuse me. In Kentucky, the voter registration deadline is October 7th, so that's also around the corner. That's next week. The deadline to request an absentee ballot is October 29th. The in-person absentee ballot is already started, and it goes all the way up to November 4th. There is no early voting. Deadline to return completed absentee ballots is November 5th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the general election is November 5th as well. For New Jersey, there is no early voting. There is no in-person absentee voting, but the voter registration deadline is October 15th. So we have about 13 days, so about 2 weeks left before the end of voter registration. The deadline to request an absentee ballot for an in-person request is Monday, November 4th at 3 p.m. And the deadline to return it is Tuesday, November 5th at 8 p.m. And the general election is on November 5th, right? So as you can see, a lot of these deadlines are coming up in the next couple days, within the next 2 weeks, right? And so as you can see, right, we're shifting from this culture of doing voter registration to mainly doing GOTV work, but not saying we don't want to finish out strong in terms of voter registration, right? There's still a lot of people out there, particular people who may not be on our campuses, people who are college age, people who are working right now, who maybe not have access or don't see people who are doing voter registration on a daily basis. And so what I want to push people to do is, with the last few days of voter registration for the states that are still doing that, I want y'all to start thinking about how can we do voter registration outside our campuses? Are there ways that we can partner with community organizations to do voter registration? What are places that young people frequently visit, and how can we register as many people as possible? But as Tiffany Lofton said as well as Derek, is we want to also think about how are we ensuring that we are databasing those people. And so like Derek said earlier, we want to capture the data for our voter contacts, right? So you can use the 10K plan, which will be sent out to you after this webinar. But for the 10K plan, it captures the name, the address, the email, the mobile number, as well as are they an NAACP member or not, right? We want to encourage you to be strategic, right? So when you're recruiting volunteers and celebrating volunteers, you want to be strategic. So on average, if you have one volunteer can register 5 people within 1 hour. So if I want to get 200 voter registration cards within, let's say, 1 week, I'm going to need 40 volunteers working at least 1 hour per week, right? So that might be difficult to get 40 volunteers to work at least 1 hour per week. So maybe I say, all right, let me get 20 volunteers to work at least 2 hours per week to get me to my goal, right? So again, we want to be strategic. So I'm going to encourage everybody to create strategic plans. And everybody should be in contact with a national officer or a state president or somebody who can support you in creating this plan. But using this number, right, we want you to be strategic about, hey, if I'm trying to reach X amount of goals, how many volunteers do I need, and how many hours do I need to actually have them registering people per week, right? We're going to talk about this a little later when it also comes to GOTV, because we can also use that as a method to document and see how many ways and how many ways in which we can get people out to vote. I'm going to pause here real quick to see if there are any questions so far. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand and I will unmute you.
Will you guys be sending out that link to us?
Yes, we will. We definitely will share it with you again. I can pull it up again as well. And I think you're on the phone, but just for a refresher, the link is bit.ly/NAACP-YC10K. But we will also be sending it out as well. So if you didn't get it, it's all good. We'll send it out to you. Make sure you have it. We definitely want you to use it. We definitely want you to help us reach our goal of 10K. And so, like I said, we want to be strategic about how many people are we registering to vote each week, how many volunteers are we using, and if we're meeting our goals, right? If we're not meeting our goals, then we can start talking about what are some resources or support that we can do to ensure that you reach those goals. Any other questions about deadlines? Any other questions about voter registration? Cool. Well, we'll have some more time at the end for question and answer. But next, we're going to go to GOTV tactics and touches. So when we say a GOTV touch, what that means is that it is a documented interaction with the registered voter, right? So like Derek said earlier, we want to have at least 3 touches minimum, right? When we think about people remembering things or thinking about people actually completing certain tasks, it oftentimes takes people 3 to 5 times to actually execute that. So if somebody's contacted between 3 to 5 times in a documented manner, there is a strong likelihood that they will actually turn out to vote, right? Like Derek said earlier, we can register all the people in the world, but if people don't turn out on election day, if people don't turn in their absentee ballots, it doesn't actually matter, right? So we want to make sure that we have 3 touches to ensure that the people that we are registering to vote actually turn out to vote. So a couple ways that we can do this, and we'll go over this in a little bit more detail in the next couple slides, but you can have tabling events, right? You can have hustle parties, right? And if you haven't heard of Hustle, Hustle is a text messaging service that you can opt into. And what it does is that it comes up with a list of people who are registered voters in the area, registered voters in the state, and you can just click the button and send text messages saying, hey, my name is Wisdom Cole. Are you planning to vote on November 5th? Hi, my name is Wisdom Cole. There's an election coming up. Are you planning to vote on November 5th? Hey, my name is Wisdom Cole. Do you know where your polling location is? Right? Different things to ensure that people know how to turn out on November 5th. We want to do hustle parties because that's a really easy way of gathering people together in a room. And let's say for an hour or so of your time, it could be a normal NAACP meeting. It could be a meeting outside. Maybe you have pizza. Maybe you have other food and drink. And you're just sending text messages off and you're documenting how many people you're actually texting using the Hustle app, right? And so we'll be coming up with instructions of how to opt into the Hustle party option, but that's definitely a really great way to remind people about the upcoming election. Phone banking, right? So the reason why we're asking you to collect information is that we also want you to be able to call people and remind them, hey, the election's coming up. Do you know your polling location? Is there any information you need about what's on the ballot? Who's running for the upcoming elections? Different things of that nature, right? We want to use that as an opportunity. We want to do class wraps, right? Class wraps is the opportunity to go into a classroom and give an announcement and talk to the students and tell them about the upcoming elections. While we're doing class wraps, we want to pass around a sign-in sheet. Maybe you have an iPad that you can also use the 10K link and you can pass that around and have people fill it out so that we can get in contact with them as well and remind them of the upcoming elections. We also want to encourage you to do voter education events, right? Oftentimes people don't turn out to vote because they don't know what's actually on the ballot. A lot of people don't know the election is coming up, right? So we want to make sure that people have the most amount of information possible so they can make the most informed decision. We want to do targeted door knocking, right? So the one reason why we talk about the VAN system so often is because it allows us to do targeted door knocking. There was a VAN webinar that happened about 2 weeks ago, and we will actually be uploading the VAN tutorial on our YouTube channel shortly, and so definitely be on the lookout for that. But we want you to be able to do targeted door knocking where you know exactly where registered voters are, and you can inform them about getting out to vote for the upcoming election. And then last but not least, we want to do relational organizing. And so relational organizing isn't something new. It is something amazing. It is something that our community does exceptionally well, but it's recognizing that there are people in our community that we already know, people we know who don't vote and people we know who do vote. And we want to use the relationships that we have with them to ensure that they actually are going through the process of voter registration to turning out to vote on election day. And so in the national office, we'll be kicking off a couple programs in the next couple of weeks. People within the state of Virginia, people within the state of Kentucky, people within the state of Louisiana, people within the state of Mississippi, people within the state of New Jersey will actually be receiving mail from the national office asking them to help us with our relational organizing program, right? By opting into the relational organizing program, they will be sent a list of contacts in which they will be able to reach out to ensure that they are registered to vote, as well as turning out to vote on the election, right? So this is a GOTV tool that we're going to be using. We're actually going to be having a national call center hotline that people can actually call in to get voter education information, to ensure that they know where their polling location is, right? We're doing everything possible in the national office to make sure that we are offering support necessary to turn out as many people as possible. And so, again, like I said before, if you need any help, just reach out, right? We have our emails. A lot of people already have our contact information. If you don't have our contact information, we're always active on our Instagram, so feel free to DM us at any time. We definitely want to make sure that people have as many resources as possible to turn out our people. So again, when we talk about these touches, right? A touch is just a contact, right? So oftentimes the first time you interact with a voter or potential voter is registering to vote, right? So making sure that students are registered, getting them to sign voter pledge cards, filling out the 10K link, right? Something that we can make sure that we are entering the information and databasing them. The second time is maybe even verifying they're registered to vote. A lot of people will be like, I'm registered, but maybe they're registered back home, Maybe they're registered in a different county. Maybe they lived in a dorm one year and they moved to an apartment the next year and they thought they were registered to vote, but the district is cut in a way where their registration place is as a different location. And so we want to make sure that they're verified as a registered voter, even after the voter registration deadline passes, right? To make sure that they know that they can actually vote. We want to confirm their polling location. Do we know exactly where people are supposed to vote on election day? We want to distribute voter guides and sample ballots, right? Do people know exactly what's on, what people are voting for and who's running for what? We also want to talk to them about the issues and candidates, right? We know that as millennials, as young people, we are issue-based voters, right? And so we want to know that, hey, what are people running for and what do they stand for and what issues are going to speak to us as young people so we can make sure that we turn out as many people as possible. We want to invite students to forums, debates, movies, and events, right? So if you have the opportunity to bring out potential candidates to your campus, definitely do that and organize that, and they will have the opportunity to talk to them about what's happening. Today, there actually was there was a gun violence or gun safety forum in Las Vegas where presidential candidates spoke about their policies around gun reform, and students and members of the community got the opportunity to ask some questions, right? By doing that, people were able to understand a little bit more of their policy. And as we get closer and closer to the 2020 election, we definitely want to be more serious about, hey, what are people standing for and how are we making sure that people understand different policies in place by candidates? We also want to think about how can we organize rides to the polls, right? Are there ways that we can ensure that people have rides or people are getting to the polls if they don't have access, right? In a lot of our states, people see that there are polling locations that are off campus. Maybe the polling location is 5 miles away. So how do we ensure that people get to the polls in a timely manner within their schedule? And last but not least, we want to confirm that people are prepared to vote, right? Just a call, a door knock, something that ensures that people know exactly the election is coming up, it's around the corner, and that's going to be our last contact. And then on election day, we definitely want to be excited. We want to make sure we're knocking on doors, we're calling people in our contact list to make sure that they have voted, right? If they haven't voted, asking them what they need to ensure that they do vote on election day. So like I said, a GOTV tool is tabling, right? Making sure that we are in high traffic areas, making sure that we have our materials, that we're legitimizing ourselves, letting people know exactly what's happening in the upcoming election. For folks who are maybe inexperienced in tabling, maybe you want to create a script, right? Something that allows you to get straight to the point, know a way in which you can talk to people, you can communicate with people to ensure that they are either registered to vote or that they're turning out to vote on the election day. And one thing I want to talk about tabling is you definitely want to be engaged. You want to make sure that you are in front of the table, that you have signs, you have posters, you have different voter education information if possible, anything that's going to help people come to your table. You want to do class wraps, right? Again, it's an opportunity to talk to your class about what's going on or talk to your local community, right? So I want to push folks to also think about not just doing it on campus, but also doing it off campus. Make sure you get permission either by your professor or local groups, right? You want to be strategic. Are there certain places that you are not hitting or certain places that people don't have access to information so you can make sure you can get your point across quickly? Again, you want to get contacts and commitments. The easiest way, right? Get a clipboard, get a piece of paper, name, phone number, address, mailing address, email address. Are you a member of the NAACP? Are you interested in becoming a member of the NAACP, right? Because this is also a great way to recruit people to the NAACP and to your chapter, right? You get those contacts so you can call them afterwards to make sure that they have the right information necessary to turn out. Oftentimes, this is definitely the most effective way of registering people as well as getting people out to vote. You want to do door knocking, right? So door knocking is a really great way to get people to pledge to vote, as well as to register to vote, as well as get out to vote. We want to do targeted knocks, right? So a targeted knock means we know exactly where we're going. We know exactly who we're talking to. We know exactly who we are checking off our box and say, hey, we talked to Wisdom Cole at this address. We talked to Derek Lewis at this address. We talked to Jasmine Livingston at this address. Knowing exactly who we're targeting, because we want to understand exactly who are the people that we have talked to before, and we're tracking how many times we've touched them, how many times we contacted them. If you are on a campus, right, an easiest way to do that is doing a dorm storm, right? So going to your residence hall, going to your apartment buildings. But when you're doing this, you want to create a walk list. So a walk list essentially is saying, hey, these are the floors, these are the rooms, these are the routes that we're going, and how many volunteers are we using to do these routes, right? On average, right, one volunteer can knock on 30 doors in 1 hour, right? The same way one volunteer can register 5 people within 1 hour on average. And so you want to think about this almost as like some GOTV math. So if I asked you, you know, hey, in 1 week, I want to knock on 500 doors, right? And I asked you, how many volunteers would you need to knock on 500 doors if one volunteer can knock on 30 doors in 1 hour, right? So let me give you a second to deliberate on that. Maybe we got some math majors on the call. You can help us out with that. You can train your people on how to do this. But really quickly, you know, you can do 500 divided by 30. And on average, you're going to need 17 volunteers at least working 1 hour a week, right? And again, you can manipulate that number, right? Maybe you can't get 17 volunteers. Maybe you only have half of that, right? If you have half of that, you got to have all those volunteers working at least 2 hours a week. Maybe you have some super volunteers who can volunteer 3 hours a week, right? So you can even go less than that. But making sure you have the right ratios, the right numbers, because really this is a numbers game, right? If you get the right amount of volunteers, right? And oftentimes we say membership is power. Our volunteers are power. Our volunteers help us get the work done, right? If you can play the numbers game and you can ensure you have the right amount of volunteers and you are knocking on the right amount of doors, right? We will win. We can win. We can do the work that is necessary for us to turn out our people to vote on election day, right? And so again, it comes down to a numbers game. And like we said before, the NAACP Youth and College Division is well equipped to support you all. And so if you need help in planning, if you need help planning walk routes, if you need help planning GOTV routes, if you need help planning door knocking routes, we are here to help you and support you in calculating how many people you need necessary. If you're having a hard time recruiting volunteers or you're getting people to say no, right, we can also support you on how to turn a no into a yes, right? Oftentimes no's aren't just saying, hey, no, I don't want to do this. It might be a no, not right now. Maybe it's a no, I'm going to do this later. But thinking about what are ways that we can communicate to our folks to support our campaign, getting out as many people as possible. Another opportunity, right, is phone banking, like we talked about, right? Having a short script, something in which you're communicating with people about the issues, ensuring that they're able to turn out to vote on election day. I'm going to pause right here again real quick to see if there are any questions about GOTV tactics and touches. If you are on a computer, feel free to raise your hand and I can unmute you. If you are on a phone, I believe you may be unmuted already, so feel free to ask a question and me and Derek will support in answering.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Amber.
Okay. Are we allowed to partner with nonpartisan organizations? So I know that NextGen is always on our campus, and I was thinking maybe we can go dorm storming, like knocking on dorms with them. Just needed extra help.
Yes. And I would highly, highly encourage that, right? We oftentimes say that many hands make light work, right? And so maybe you are struggling to get volunteers within the NAACP or folks who are joining the NAACP. The perfect way, like Amber said, is to partner with other organizations like Next Gen America. And we can also support you in thinking about what are other groups or opportunities that you can partner with people, right? Do you have the Divine Nine on your campus, right? I know people who are part of the Divine Nine who will mobilize, and they will turn out. And so ensuring that you're partnering with people who can get bodies on the ground and can actually dorm storm with you. And so that's a perfect way. And we definitely want to encourage people to coalition build. And shout out to y'all at Mary Washington University for doing that. I saw the voter registration day event and it seemed like you had multiple organizations there. And that's exactly what we're looking for when we're thinking about GOTV. So thank you. Any other questions? Alrighty, so we'll go to the next part, but again, there will also be some opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation. And it seems like we're gonna be ending pretty soon. And so feel free to jump in, Derek, if you have anything else to input as well. But last but not least, leading to the polls. So one thing we want to ensure that people are doing is that election day comes out. So I know Louisiana primaries is coming up real soon, but for other folks who are shooting for November 5th, right, we definitely want to encourage you to be visible on your campus, right? We want to make sure that the campus is covered in posters, covered in banners, covered in door hangers, covered in flyers, different things that let people know that, hey, today is election day. Today is the day that we turn out. Today is the day that we mobilize, and today is the day that we win. And so we definitely want to make sure that people are building coalitions and have different events that are going to draw attention, that are going to draw media to your campus, right? Because we want to show that young people are engaged, right? Oftentimes people are saying, as young people, we're apathetic. Young people don't turn out. Young people don't care about the vote. Young people don't care about this stuff. But as you can see that we do, right? You know, we turn out so many people during the midterm elections. And even though it is not a presidential election, it's not an off season for us, right? We have elections that are affecting us. We have gubernatorial elections. We have state legislative elections. And so we want to ensure that in our states, right, these 5 states, as well as the multiple and plethora of mayoral elections happening across the country, that we are still turning out people to vote on election day. And so some ideas, and feel free to jump in, Derek, if you have some other ideas, but some ideas that you definitely do on election day is you want to video the vote, right? You want to quickly get on your Instagram, get in your Snapchat, let people know, hey, I'm turning out to vote today. I'm going at this time. If you want to join me, feel free to join me. Organize marches to the polls, right? Get a whole lot of people together, meet in one area, maybe meet in the quad, maybe meet in the quarry, maybe meet in whatever plaza, and we're going to march to the polls together, right? We're turning out people in a group of folks. We're organizing rides to the polls, right? Again, if you are in an area where your polling location may be off campus, your polling location may be a significant distance away. Maybe you have off-campus students who don't tend to come on campus, right? How can you organize or make sure that people have rides to the polls, right? So simply saying, hey, we have some time slots from 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12 throughout the day. This is a person who's a point of contact. If you need a ride to the poll, this person will come pick you up at this location and make sure you get to the polls, right? We also want to encourage people to host watch parties, right? How can you host an opportunity for people to go vote and then come together at the end to enjoy the work that you've already done, to celebrate the work that you've done, and to see what are the results of the hard work you put in during this vote season, right? And we know you've been putting in hard work, and so we definitely want to celebrate with you and to let us know what's happening, tell us what's going on in your community, because we want to highlight all the stuff that's happening for the upcoming election. Derek, did you have any other ideas or anything you wanted to add?
I don't have any more ideas, but I think I want to emphasize on the importance of coalition building, because through all these efforts, when you partner with different organizations who are on campus and also, most importantly, who are off campus, you can have a greater reach. When you're talking about partnering with different organizations to mobilize people to the polls, you have to realize that everybody has their own influence. Everybody has their own target audience. Everybody has their own following. And then once you think about that, when you partner with these organizations, they may be able to reach somebody that you can't. And at the end of the day, the greater impact is that we move X amount of people to the polls. So thinking about what it means to partner with different organizations, and also understanding what it means that when we are partnering, is that we're doing this together. A lot of people tend to compete on election day to be like, oh, I got more people to the polls than you, but we're in the same community. If we can do this together, then we'll have a greater impact. And it's not about the recognition all the time, but it's more about the greater impact and actually, and actually changing the policy or electing new candidates or elect new candidates into these positions who will advocate on our behalf.
That's perfect. I would love to echo what Derek has said, right? That work, we shouldn't be turf fighting. We shouldn't be infighting within ourselves, right? We should be working together and supporting each other. But to back it up, we also definitely want to make sure that we're databasing that work as well. So that is going to be it for tonight's presentation. We are at 9:45, and so thank y'all so much for your participation. We're going to open it up for question and answer. If folks have any questions about what was presented or they want to talk through some strategy, both me and Derek are here on the line. We're definitely willing to stay on and talk with you. What I can do is I can unmute folks and let people be able to speak, ask questions, dialogue. Maybe even folks can share a little bit about what they are doing on their campuses as well.
I'm so confused.
That you, Kelsey?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm helping something. Hey y'all.
No worries. You want to share a little bit about what you've been doing on your campus?
Sure, yeah, I can talk about it. So voter registration for us was kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say weak, but it was kind of hard because everybody was doing voter registration. So what we did instead was we did a lot more about education and trying to get out into like our surrounding community. So we created an initiative called the High School Voter Program, where we went to 2 different high schools, predominantly Black high schools around Southern, and we talked to them about the importance of voting and being registered. They're eligible people. That was we probably hit about maybe 45 to 50 kids with that one. We did voter registration on move-in day. We did a Chick-fil-A event with the Chick-fil-A on campus. I got in a cow suit and we got people to register to vote. I'm trying to think about what else we did. Today we did some transportation to the polls for early voting, and we just got done with a candidates forum. And other than that, we kind of just been supporting the other organizations that's been in the community that's been doing voter registration as well. So yeah.
So perfect. You can get some good ideas from Kelsey as well. But I think that's exactly what we're asking folks to do, as well as databasing that information, making sure that we're getting those contacts so we can follow up with them, right? Because y'all about to be done with the primaries, and y'all got to get into the general elections, and so you want to make sure that people who turned out for the primaries also turn out for the general election, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint, and so we want to make sure that folks are following through even after the primary elections. Any other questions? All righty. Well, we will be sending this presentation out to y'all after this call. Definitely feel free to share it with your members. Feel free to share it with other folks in your state. We definitely want to see the continuation of coalition building. Definitely use the link. That's a big thing. We definitely want to use the link. We definitely want to make sure that we are increasing our contacts and we're getting new contacts as well, right? We want to make sure we're expanding the reach of the NAACP Youth and College Division to support as many people as possible and to ensure that we turn out the vote this coming November. Derek, do you want to leave us with some parting words before we wrap up?
Yeah, so going off with the link, so with the link, this is a link that you can also complete on your phone, so it doesn't have to be on your laptop. It'll be good for you to have this set up at your voter registration table, or if you're having a informational, you can set this up on your laptop so people can come and go and just do that, or you can share it in your group message, whatever that may be. Another thing that I always say in my trainings that is, in unity we find our strength. Divided we are weak, and together we are strong. So really thinking about what it means to work together to get this done. You guys are already doing the work. I think now it's just how do we mobilize people to the polls and actually do it. So yeah, I mean I'm proud of all the work that you have been doing. Keep it up, but know that this work does not stop. And also it does not stop after this election. We have to continue to register people to vote, continue to educate people, and also let them know that election, we don't operate in cycles, but it's 365 days out of the year because the issues that affect us are happening to us every day. And our power is within our vote. So understanding that power and bringing awareness to that. And yeah.
Exactly. Perfectly put, Derek. I just want to echo those sentiments is that, again, it's a marathon, right? This is a demonstration. This is an opportunity to build power. And that's what we're doing. We're building power within the Youth and College Division. We're building millennial power. We're building Black power, right? And by doing this, by continuing to run through it and continuing to be a part of this process, the more and more power we can build. And so even after November passes, we still want to be doing voter registration. We still want to make sure people are registered to vote. We want to make sure that people know what's coming up for the 2020 election, because I know it's going to be a big one. We want to ensure that people are the most informed and can turn out as many people as possible. We also want to make sure that we are getting pictures of the work you're doing. So feel free to share pictures with us. Let us know how many people you're registering. Make sure that we can shout you out. We can highlight the great work you're doing on your campuses, because we will be seeing you out there, and we will continue to support you in every way possible that we can. So thank you all for being on the webinar tonight. I'm going to hold to see if there are any more questions, any last minute questions. We're finishing about 10 minutes early. We are here to support you. All right, cool. I'm not seeing any questions come up. But thank you everybody who did ask questions. Thank you everybody who was here tonight. Again, feel free to share this with folks who are not on the call, people on your campus, people at other campuses in your state. And we will definitely be in touch very, very soon. All right, everybody, have a great night.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Also, hi, Kelsey.
Hey, girl.
Yeah. Okay, bye, everyone.
It's a reunion.